Ah, Arma. It's been around for quite a while now. Arma 3 has, anyway. I know Arma 2 and Operation Flashpoint and the other one have been around much longer. And with the upcoming Arma 4 and Arma Reforger, I decided to get into modding because I love this game. I spend a lot of time in it. I have, I believe, over 2,000 hours in the game now, and I know there's people out there with 7,000 and so forth. Uh, Documentation and videos on how to mod this game, they exist, but a lot of the times they're hard to find, and getting answers from people who are part of the communities can be a bit difficult sometimes because everyone's protective of their methods. There are helpful people out there. No doubt, I wouldn't have been able to do it without several individuals, and I want to kind of share some of that knowledge. So today we're going to be importing the default Blender cube into Arma so that you at least have a basic understanding of the process that goes on into modding. The helmet that I'm wearing right now is the Keystone helmet. As of right now, I'm the only person with this helmet in Arma because I made it from the ground up and I put it in the game, and it's fully functional within Optre's mod. So I am going to show you the very basic form of that, and that is putting this here Blender cube into Arma. Now this is an actual prop. It's not. I can't walk through it. I actually might be able to if I set it up wrong. All right. I can't walk through it. I can't shoot through it. I can't see through it. I can walk on it thanks to the roadway that I put on the top. It is an actual prop. I can give it physics if I wanted to, but I made it extremely heavy, so moving it is very difficult. But it actually does have physics if I raise it up and... Oh, I don't have it on the list of resources yet, so we'll go over that whenever I show you the config file. But basically the goal of today's video is by the end of it, you should be able to get this from Blender into the game and functional as something that you can mess with. I even have this one to where I can carry it via Ace, so I'll show you how to do that as well. And without further ado, let's hop into it. Okay, so if you have any experience in Blender, you will see right off the bat that this is the default cube. As a matter of fact, new, general, don't save, and here we are. It's just a default cube. And I'm going to show you how to put it in the game as is. As it is right now, it's about 1 unit tall, so like 1 person tall, which is fairly tall. I believe you can fit the entire Arma Man skeleton in the default Blender cube. We're not going to worry about sizing and all that stuff right now. If you do move it around, so like if I were to put it up here, if I wanted it to be up there for some reason, you would have to Control A all transforms. And what that does is it resets its origin point so that whenever you operate with it within Arma or within Object Builder, sorry, I couldn't think of the name. When you work with it within Object Builder, it's going to remember that it's been moved. Also scale. It resets the scale of it as well, so that if you scale it down, that change isn't fully applied until you like reset the transforms and make those the new normal. I believe that's how that is. Not 100% certain. I myself am relatively new to this. I have several mods out right now. Some of them aren't available to the public, but that's just how I do things. So first things we're going to do is we are going to make a roadway layer on the top so that you can walk on it if you have enhanced movement, or if you know you want to stack a few of them together and make stairs. So we're going to go into edit mode, click the face selection tool. We're going to click on that face, the top face, the one that we want to walk on, and we're going to right click, and we're going to go down to separate by selection. Alright, so now we're going to pop back into object mode, click on that face again, and I'm not using hotkeys to jump around between modes because I'm approaching this like you guys just opened up Blender. So don't freak out at me because I'm doing this. Alright, so it's going to show up over here on the right as Cube 1. You're going to change that to roadway. I'm just kidding. You're going to Control C. So that copies it as this, it's just a plane right now. So Control C to copy the plane. And you're going to hit Control Z until it pops you back into the edit mode. And you only have one object over here. Alright? So now you're going to switch back into object mode and hit Control V. And that will paste that plane above the cube. And you won't have lost that face that's underneath from separating it earlier. So now just make sure that it's slightly above. Like that. And then reset all its transforms. The reason why we want it to be slightly above is so that there's no collision issues while you're walking on the object. And you can see over here I named it roadway. That's for myself. You can name it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Some people like to put the resolution LOD. I am going to go about this as if you do not have the Arma toolbox installed. I highly recommend installing it. It is very helpful. If I go here to Arma 3, I can select this object, and I can tell it that I want it to be, it's an Arma object, and I want it to be the custom selection, so it's just going to be a resolution model. And then I can do the same with roadway over here. I can go to LOD and go down to roadway, and that tells the game that it's something that can be walked on, driven on, climbed on, etc. But like I said, we're going to approach this like you don't have access to the Arma toolbox. And then I'll show you how to do everything in Object Builder. So what we're going to do now is we're going to export these individually as P3Ds. So I'm going to go to File, Export. Sorry, not P3Ds because you don't have the toolbox and you don't have that ability. We're going to go FBX, and I'm going to go to my P drive. You can do this on your desktop. You can do this anywhere, just so long as you remember the file names. I'll get into that later. But so here I'm in my P drive. I'm going to go to decube, which is the file that I made just for this. And then I'm going to export this as the_cube. Alright, and that's going to save after I click selected objects. Don't forget that because we only want the cube. We don't want the roadway, we just want the cube. So the_cube, selected objects only, make sure you only have the cube selected, and then you're going to hit export. Alright, now we're going to grab the top layer, this little roadway up here, and same thing, file, export, FBX, the cube, and we're going to put _road. Selected objects only. Export. Alright. Congratulations. It's ready for the next step, which is the object builder. So I'll see you there. Okay, welcome to Object Builder. I just created the face. I didn't mean to do that. We are going to import FBX, the cube, and just for the sake of what we're doing here, I believe we need to do, I think this is 1,000th of the scale. FBX, for some reason, every time I export it, is that it makes it extremely large, and we don't want that, so, okay, so it's not 1,000th. Import, we'll do 100th. FBX. The cube. Master scale, 100th. Import. There we go. Now we got ourselves a cube. Still going to be a little small, I believe. Maybe not. We'll see. So now we have our first layer here, which is the resolution layer. This is our cube. This is the object that we want in the game. As you can see here, it shows up as a component already. We don't have to do that, but just for the sake of showing you the process, normally if you didn't already name vertices within Blender, you would go to Structure, Topology, and Find Components, and you'll see this pop up. That's good. That means Object Builder was able to see your object, see the parts that it was made out of. So now, You don't need that yet. I want that. Alright. That way I don't have to worry about making more of those black cubes. So now you're going to go over here to where it says 0.000. This is your first layer. This is your LOD. You're going to right click it. Properties. Just go ahead and type in 1. And this just means like 1 meter out, it's going to look like this. You can leave it 0. I believe might be best to leave it as 0, but for this situation, we're going to go ahead and go with 1. We are going to hit, first of all, Control S to save. So this is one of my other mods. We don't need that. We need the cube. The cube. Alright, I already have a P3D in here that is the cube, like the one that I used for the demo at the start of the video. We're going to go ahead and overwrite that. And I saved it as _cube. Try not to use spaces because it makes the coding side of things a lot easier. Alright, so now we have our cube. We imported it at 100th the scale. So now we're going to import the top layer, which is the roadway. So import FBX, the cube road, double click that, and then same thing as that one, 100th. Oh. Whoops. That's fine. If it does that to you, just hit Control C, and then you're going to go back 1 layer. And then you can hit Control V. Alright, so now it's taking it and it's putting it here, which we don't want, so I believe there's a button that lets me, like, new, Control V. Alright. So what I did there is I just made a new LOD layer, which is what I meant to do before. Basically, because I didn't, it replaced the cube that we had. So before you import the new layer, which will be the roadway, you want to right click up here in this window and create a new LOD. And then when you import it, it'll put it on that layer. Now, whenever I click on this layer, our cube is going to disappear. That's okay. It's just showing us the current LOD that we have selected. And since this is a roadway, we want this to be seen as a roadway. We're going to right click this, properties, and we're going to go to roadway. Just hit OK. There we go. Now Arma sees this as a walkable object for us. So now we want the cube to be able to be hit. We're going to go ahead and hit Control S. That saves it. We already saved it as the cube in our file called the cube. Now we're going to go back up to our cube LOD. Very beautiful. We're going to right click this and we're going to duplicate it. Now that we have the second cube here, it's going to make a new LOD, so a new layer, and our cube is going to be on that layer. So we're going to right click that, properties, geometry. And this will make it the geometry object that Arma sees physically. Like, this is the collision box. Think of it, you can think of it that way. There's several different layers to the collision box, but right now this is just the collision box. So if we want it to be interactable by the player, like we don't want the player to be able to walk through it, it has to be at least a mass of 10. So you're going to select all of it. This selects all the vertices, all the faces, and then you're going to type in 10, 15, 20, whatever you want. So we're going to do 15 and hit apply. And that applies that mass to all these vertices here. We can go ahead and delete this because we made this on accident. The roadway, that is a vertices selection. That's what that is. So if I have nothing selected and I click on component 1, it's going to select the whole box. So now that we have that done, we can go back to the geometry layer and we can highlight it and see down here that it is still 15, so everything's good. Now we're going to right click that, duplicate it, right click our new layer, properties. This is going to be the geometry physics. This is what tells the game that it's going to, hit the ground and do stuff. 10 out of 10. Amazing explanation. You can also do ground contact points that tells the game, like, this is what like this is the part of it that should be touching the ground, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. We're going to duplicate the physics, properties, and we're going to go to fire geometry. This is what makes it to where we can't shoot through it. Alright, so now we're going to duplicate. Again, you can do it on the fire geometry or the geometry. Right click it, properties. Oh, excuse me, and you're going to go to view geometry. You're going to hit OK. There. That's all of our geometry layers. The view geometry makes it to where AI can't see through it. The fire geometry makes it to where you can't shoot through it. Geometry physics means that it's going to interact with the world around it. Geometry makes it to where you can't walk through it. So now we're just going to hit Control S. And there we go. She's ready for Arma. Mostly. Now you need to do the config side of things. And without making it too complicated, I already have a config written for this. I will walk you through every step. If you want to write one your own, you can do that. I will try to have this available within the description of the video, the whole file if I can. That way you have a good basis to go off of. A good resource is the Arma 3 samples. If you have this, it will basically give you every item in the base Arma game that you can use to learn how to make things within Arma. Uses references, stuff like that. It also comes with some templates for headgear, characters, that kind of thing. So I highly recommend getting that if you want to look more into modding. And if you have any questions, you can always look at what they did to get something into the game. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hop into the config section. I don't need to do a cut here. I can just click that and we're here. All right. So starting off, we have CFG patches. You'll notice in a lot of the Arma tutorial stuff, they will usually have this as a separate file. You don't need to do that. You can make it your own. Like you don't need to do that. You can make it part of your main config. So we have CFG patches, and this here is going to be the name of the mod, like within Arma. So to keep it from conflicting with a mod that I already have, we're going to change its name to the cube mod. And remember, don't use spaces, always use underscores. It makes everything so much easier. So while looking around, I see, units, weapons, magazines, ammo, required add-ons, required version, author. You could go ahead and put your name in author because you made this mod. For up here, we really only need the unit selection. This will let us edit it in Zeus and the editor. Now we're going to go down to editor categories. If you want your own category within the editor to pop up so that you can find your objects a lot easier, this is what you would do. Now, Arma 3 Wiki recommends using base categories. This keeps clutter out of the Zeus menu and the editor, Eden editor. I wanted my own category because I made a lot of stuff, so I created my own category. You can change the class name to whatever you want, and then this is the name that shows up in the editor whenever you go to select the item. Try to pick something that won't conflict with stuff that already exists. I have an extra S here because I already have this category. I have an S at the end of stuffs here because this is also another category. Alright, so take a look at this, get a good look at it. If you want to create your own category, you would use this, and this will make all your objects pop up under this in the editor. If you want a subcategory within that, you would use this, and this will make it to where it says Marby's props, and then MISC props underneath that, and that's another little drop-down menu. So if you have multiple mods, you would make subcategories rather than entirely new categories. So now we're going to go ahead and go down to the section where we declare classes and create the CFG vehicles class. That's where our cube is going to be. So you don't need any of this. This is all stuff from another mod, since obviously I'm not try and write stuff so that you can use it again later. I'm not making this all from scratch. I wrote a config. Here it is. where this is where all my Covenant prop stuff exists. And don't let that overwhelm you. That's fine. We're just dealing with this today. So our first class, aside from, the editor subcategories and all that stuff, we need class CFG vehicles. This is what most things are referred to within Arma. This is Arma, baby. This is how it is. So at first here we have an object that already exists within Arma, the basketball. And in order to get our mod to pull that class's data, we have to declare it up here. So we say class land basketball 01F. And that's okay, I'm going to go and find that that item that already exists within Arma, and we're going to pull information off of that. Any information that you're missing in yours will come from this. So now we're going to make our class, and our class is going to be class the cube. Nice and simple. And then we're going to put that is a colon. I almost call it a semicolon. We're going to put a colon, and then we're going to call that basketball, right? And like I said, this is going to fill in any information that we might be missing. So the picture in the editor, the physics that I don't feel like setting up, all that stuff is going to be done for us. So now we have our open bracket here, scope. This is what tells the game that it is visible to the player. As in, while you're in the editor, you'll be able to see it in the list. So if I put a 1, I believe that makes it visible within code. If I put a 0, that means it's just, you can't see it anywhere. But if I put a 2, that makes it to where it's public. You can see it in the editor, you can see it you can see it pretty much. So scope curator is Zeus. So I want it to be visible in Zeus as well, so I would put 2 to make it public. Editor category, that's us right up here. You're going to put the class name of your category, not this. This is the display name. You want the class name. So we're going to put that, and then same with the subcategory, because we made our own subcategory. We don't want the cube to be destroyable, so we're going to put destruction no. Destruct no. Our display name, so this is the name that shows up in the editor and in Zeus, the cube. And then the model. So whatever file you have, you're going to put the file name and then backslash the name of your model. And in this case, we called it decube, so decube.p3d. And we did save it as a p3d in here. So I'll go ahead and show you that one more time. Save as, decube, save, replace. And we're good. So description, this is what's going to show up whenever you hover over it. It's going to show you a short description. And it's a cube. What more do you want? Now, to be able to carry it, for ace, I have ace dragon can carry. Ace dragon carry position, and this tells the game where to put it in front of me. While I picked it up during that demo, that opening demo, it was a little close to my face, so we're going to go ahead and move it 1.5 away from my origin position. And this is X, Y, and Z. Y is forward, X is somewhere else, to the left, I guess, and then Z is, of course, up and down. So it depends on what way your character's facing. Ace dragon carry direction 0. I don't know what that does. I think it changes the orientation of the model depending on the orientation of things. And then we're going to close that out. You don't necessarily need to do that, but I recommend getting into the habit of making sure that you put semicolons at the end of every line where they are required. You don't need one here because we are opening a statement and then we're closing the statement. So just remember to do that because it is important. It will mess you up later on. So now that we have our class created, we have it declared, Arma will be able to read this and see our object and populate the game with it. We're going to take the cube right here, we're going to copy it, and then we're going to go up here to units. And then we're just going to Control V, just like that. Now Arma is going to let us edit the object in the Zeus menu. If you don't have it in there, it'll tell you that you don't have enough resources, like it did for us in the demo. And with that, pretty much done. Now we just have to hit Control S. So we are going to pop open our, see if it'll let me open it from here. Doesn't look like it, so we will just. So this is our decube folder. We have the FBX and the roadway. We don't need those in here. We want to try and keep the mod file as small as possible. So I'll go ahead and move those to my archive folder. I'll just put them somewhere else. And then delete. All right. So we have our config, we have the cube, and just as a bonus, if you want to do something extra, like I have this JD Silver in here. This is a RVMAT. It's what tells the game like how to render the material. So what I use is a tool called JD Tools, and this is a great starting point because RVMATs are kind of silly. Like if you look at all of this, what is all this, you know? This is a great tool for that. Basically, I just click this drop-down menu, selected silver. You can pick copper, iron, gold, whatever you want. I picked silver, and I saved it and moved it into this folder. Now, obviously, the game isn't just going to be like, oh, it's an RVMAT in the folder. I'll just apply that to whatever model's in there, because a lot of times you'll have multiple models. So what you do is you crack open the cube. You're going to highlight it, and you're going to make sure that you're on your first layer. So this is the one that's visible to you as the player, and then you're going to press E. All right, so this has every face selected. So that means we're editing all faces right now. You're going to go over here to where it says material, click this little file, and if it doesn't open right up to your location, you just find your location, find your file location, whether it's on your desktop, your documents, wherever it is, and then you're going to select that RVMAT that we just got from JD Tools. Now, a really important part is to remove this, whatever directory that it pulled this from. So in my case, it's my project drive, so p:/decube. We're going to get rid of that because people don't have that directory and they don't have this file in that directory. So we want it looking within itself. We want it looking within the PBO that we create. So we hit apply, and it will do just that. So long as you don't have that p:/ there. Go ahead and hit OK. Control S to save it, or File Save, and then you can go ahead and close out of that. All right, so now we're going to pop open the Arma tools, and you're going to go to Add-on Builder. I already have it open here. Very happy, very good. Everybody's having a good time. We have my file, which is the cube. So in my case, it's under my P drive, but you would open this and locate wherever you saved it. Like I said, your documents, your desktop, and you would select the file. You wouldn't select, you know, what's in it. You don't want to open it up and select the cube. You would just hit the cube and OK. All right. So now we're going to go to our mod folder. So this can be the desktop as well, since you're creating your own. In my case, I have mine within the workshop, just for ease of use for me, and all my other mods are in there. So you're going to select, you're going to create a new file. This is separate from the cube that you have right now. This is where the PBO is going to go. So you're going to create a new file, name it whatever you want. So in my case, I just named it the cube for easiness. And then I create a file within that file called add-ons. This is 100% necessary. You need to have the add-ons folder, or else it will not register that it's a mod. So once you do that, you can use this button down here. In fact, just for this demo, we're going to create a new folder within the workshop, and we're going to call it Wacky Cube. Why not? Then we're going to hit enter, and that creates the folder Wacky Cube. And then we're going to go under that, within that folder. So I had it selected, make new folder. It's going to create a tree here, and we're going to call this add-ons. And we're going to hit enter, and then you just hit OK. Wacky Cube add-ons. All right. So when you get further into this stuff and you want to protect your IPs or stuff that you make that's yours, you would binarize it. Honestly, I don't do this because I want people to be able to mess with my stuff. I want people to be able to learn off the things that I create, so I try not to do this. Sometimes it's required within Arma for multiplayer syncing reasons, but otherwise, with something like this, it's not, so I don't do it. And then we're just going to hit pack. Alright, you'll get build successful. If you didn't, if it says build error code 1 or 0, you have one of these is open somewhere else, and it's not letting the builder access it because it's open somewhere else. So just close out of everything that you have open, save it, close out of everything that you have open, and then try it again, and it should work. Congratulations, you have just packed your first mod. All things considered, it wasn't too difficult. 22-minute video. Most of it was me rambling about stuff. So now we're going to crack open Arma over here, and this is the one that I used for the demo. We don't need that. We're going to go to local mod, and mine has me opened up straight to my workshop, so this is where I put all my mods. And I have Wacky Cube, the one that we just made, so I'm going to select that. Wacky Cube was installed. I'm going to click load mod, and there it is. It's a very small mod file because it's a cube with no textures. So now we're going to just hit play. This cube is going to be smaller, probably, than the one that I showed off in the demo just because of how I downscaled it, but yay, Blender Cube in Arma. I will possibly go over creating textures without any fancy materials later on, but for now, we're just going to use, or without any fancy programs. So like, I'll try and show you how to do it in GIMP or MS Paint or something like that. But for now, we're just going to use the default white material that it gives everything that doesn't have a texture. Alright, so we're going to go to the editor. We're going to pick anywhere to Noah because it's a pretty map. Terrible FPS still, though, surprisingly. I don't know why I say surprisingly. Arma's just known for that. Reforger, I hear, is better. I can't wait to start modding that. I gotta buy it first, but one thing at a time. Alright, so here we are on this shore here. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little man down. And just for the sake of, I don't know what they call that, being vain. So over here, I have objects, props, and you see this is where all the stuff is. This is where I put all of my Covenant stuff, my deployable cover, the structures, all that stuff. But you made your own whenever we made the class. So that would be whatever you named it. So in my case, it's Marby's props with 2 S's, and then Miss props with 2 S's, and then we have the cube. And remember, we didn't give it a picture. So it's just going to use the picture that it inherited from the class that we pulled from, which is the basketball. So now we can just boop, and there we go. We got our cube. Look at that. Isn't it pretty? It's nice and silvery because we use that JD silver on it. Playing single player. Alright. This is our cube. It has physics because we inherited from the basketball. It's nice and light. So I believe I can like throw a grenade at it and over here and lay down. Okay, not quite, but it does have physics because we, like I said, we inherited it from the basketball. It's so small that I can't really walk on it, but if it were bigger, you would be able to climb up on it. It does have physics, like bullet physics, so if I shoot it, it's gonna register that. It looks like I can step on it, but it's, like I said, so small that unless I get in a certain spot, there, I'm hovering on it. And since we added it to the units list, I can pop into Zeus Oh, look, fishy. Fishy. Edit objects, and then I can pick it up and mess with it. And then I can go over here to empty, find my category that I made, misc props to cube, and I can have 2 cubes, and I can try and bonk myself with the cube. I think I just missed. There we go, that's perfect. Some Looney Tunes stuff going on here. Bonk. Owie. But yeah, congratulations, you have made a cube, you have put the cube in Arma. You are now a modder of Arma. In a future video, I'll go over doing equipment, so like a helmet, or I have like a lot of cosmetic items and stuff like that, so I might go over all that stuff, but for now, let me pop into my RP mode so I can do my outro. Bam, look at that, perfect. Alright, thanks for watching, and I hopes to see you next time.